Welcome into 76ers Now. Jake Chipper here with you. Coming up on today's show, going to be a good one. The Sixers player most likely to be traded this season, according to Bleacher Report. Who is it? We will discuss here on today's show. Plus, what has the Sixers' biggest weakness been this year? ESPN weighed in on that topic, and I will say I have to agree with what they had to say. We'll get into all of that here on today's show, but before we do, today, Wednesday, December 10th, so we are chugging along here in the month of December. We take a look at our December sub-battle between us, of course, here at 76ers Now, and Celtics Today. Look, we love competition here at Chat Sports, and my good friend Tyler Smith running that Celtics Today channel. Look, I hate the Celtics. I hate Celtics fans. I'm sure a lot of you do as well. They're beating us right now by about 30 subs in our December sub-battle. Can we catch up on this show? Hit that sub button. You get Sixers coverage all year long that is insightful, informative, entertaining, and it is 100% free. So I encourage you to hit that sub button. All right, let's get started first with the latest from Bleacher Report here on the player most likely to be traded by Philadelphia. Put an article today with one player on each team, not just the Sixers, that is most likely to be traded this year. Now, a lot of players are eligible to be traded starting on December 15th. A lot of this is guys who were not eligible up to this point because they signed contracts in the off season. So they were not able to be traded until about 5 days from now of this recording. That's going to open up a lot more trade possibilities. And that's really when trade talk starts to set in around the NBA. And look, starting before we get to the Sixers, there were a lot of pretty notable names that Bleacher Report listed as the player most likely to be traded by that team this season. Trae Young of the Hawks, LaMelo Ball for the Hornets, Morant for the Grizzlies, of course, Giannis for the Bucks. We know all about those rumors there. And then Lauri Markkanen for the Jazz. So there could be a lot of big names on the move here. All of these guys, for different reasons, make sense as players that could be dealt. So if you want to look at potential blockbuster moves the Sixers could make, I don't think a lot of these guys, especially these first three, make sense for Philadelphia, but are potential names to watch out for. It could be a pretty exciting trade deadline. But let's get to the Sixers, as Bleacher Report saying that Kelly Oubre is the player most likely to be dealt for Philadelphia. And it makes sense for some reasons. For other reasons, I would hold on. Before I get into my opinion, let's hear what Grant Hughes of Bleacher Report did have to say. A sprained LCL interrupted one of the best stretches of Kelly Oubre Jr.'s career. Through 12 games prior to the injury, the veteran forward was averaging 16.8 points and 5.1 rebounds on a 49.7, 34.3, 78.9 shooting split. That is field goal percentage, three-point percentage, free throw percentage as a full-time starter. That is good news for him, but also for his trade value. Kelly Oubre on an expiring $8 million salary and might be capable of securing mid-level money as a free agent this summer. The Sixers probably can't afford to pay him market rates with so much cash tied up in the maxes for Joel Embiid, Paul George, and Tyrese Maxey. So it makes sense to get something for Oubre while they still can. And that line of thinking makes sense, right? A player who's having a good season on an expiring deal. You don't want to lose these players for nothing if you don't think you'll be able to retain them in the offseason. And then with the way Oubre was playing, certainly there's a scenario where he does outprice himself. Philadelphia can't bring him back, and you lose him for nothing. And that's one of the worst things you can do as a GM is lose a talented player for absolutely nothing. So it makes sense given his salary, his play, his contract situation. But man, Oubre, as they mentioned, had been phenomenal to start the year, having the best year of his career on both sides of the ball. Defensively, I thought he had been really effective as well. And yes, I did talk about Kelly Oubre in some trade rumors in the offseason. But the way he played kind of made me rethink all of that. And I know it's a risk that he could be leaving for nothing in free agency, but I think he's played so well that you're a Sixers team that's trying to win, trying to compete. I wouldn't want to trade him right now. Now, would I trade him if a good package presented itself and you could get a good player back for Kelly Oubre? Sure, I would trade him, but I really don't think I'd want to trade him right now. Of course, the question would be, what could you actually get in return for Kelly Oubre. So we can talk about theoretical trades, and this guy is most likely to be traded. But of course, it takes two teams to make a deal. So what could the Sixers actually get in return? You got to think a fit, what teams would want Oubre, and also the money aspect as well, right? Because of course the salaries have to match, especially with the CBA and everything going on right now in the NBA. So I kind of canvassed the league and looked at teams that are really not up to their standards this year, teams having bad seasons that could look to ship off some players and maybe Philadelphia would be interested in. Now, the Herb Jones one is far and away the one I would want to do, but look, the Pelicans have a high asking price for Herb Jones. I'm not sure they're going to want to trade him. If I could get Herb Jones in a trade for Kelly Oubre, I would do that. Jones is locked down long-term on a contract. But these other guys, this is really the best I could come up with in terms of players in the mold that Philadelphia would want that are not making too much money. Because, again, you can't go too far past Kelly Oubre's $8 million. I don't think Derek Jones Jr. is an upgrade over Kelly Oubre, and he is injured right now. Najee Marshall, you could debate who's a better player. I think it's a pretty stagnant move. And then Keon Ellis, you obviously would have to get something else back from Sacramento in order for them to put more money in here. I like Keon Ellis. I also think I'd rather have Kelly Oubre right now with his size and how he fits this 76ers roster, although I do really like Keon Ellis, and I would like to find him on this team, but maybe not giving up Kelly Oubre. Of course, with Oubre coming off the injury, we're still waiting for an update. The most recent update we got on Kelly Oubre with his LCL injury was the end of last week. Philadelphia said he would be reevaluated again in a week, so that is coming up this Thursday or Friday. We should hear something on Oubre's potential return. The big question is going to be how he plays when he gets back. Does he play like he was before the injury, or does he struggle a little bit more, and then maybe you are a little bit more open to trading him? I think that'll really determine what direction the Sixers go in when it comes to Oubre at the deadline. I think he will have some interest regardless, especially if a team is willing to take on an expiring contract if you attach a second-round pick or two. But as it stands now, if Oubre does come back and he does play well, I would like to keep him. I think we're seeing, since he went out, Sixers have struggled, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I like what he brings. So I would be looking to keep Kelly Oubre. Is he the most likely to be traded? I guess, because of the mix of talent and contract. But I would be trying to keep Kelly Oubre around if I was Philadelphia. Your guys are starting now to get involved here on the show. What say you? What should the Sixers do with Kelly Oubre? Type T in the comments for trade. Type K in the comments for keep. I'll be down there in the comments section, so feel free to expand and we can have a healthy conversation, healthy debate down in the comment section. Now, coming up next, we're going to get to what ESPN had to say for the biggest weakness for Philadelphia this season. Can they fix it? Do I agree? We'll get into all that here in just a second, right around the corner. But first, I want to give a big shout out to today's presenting sponsor, and that is our friends at DraftKings. We're only a few weeks in, and the NBA season is already wild. Stars are going off, rookies are making noise, and the action doesn't stop. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, is where you can get in on all of it. Missouri listeners, listen up. DraftKings Sportsbook is now live in the Show Me State. New customers, bet just $5 and get $200 if your bet wins, paid in bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code SixersChat. That's code SixersChat, bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas. Pass-through of per wager tax may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. Additional terms at dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer. Here are my picks for tonight's NBA Cup games. Of course, Sixers not playing in the Emirates NBA Cup, but these teams are. So this is my parlay here. I'm going with 4 different player props, plus 1,052 odds. So a $100 bet would net you back over $1,000 if it does hit. SGA, 35 plus points. Thunder are, 26-1 in the year? They only have 1 loss this season. They're dominant. Big spot for SGA. Give me 35 plus points for last year's MVP. Devin Booker, 20 plus points against those Oklahoma City Thunder. Give me Luka, 50 plus points, rebounds, and assists combined. That is PRA against the Spurs. And then give me De'Aaron Fox, 35 plus points, rebounds, and assists against the Lakers. It's as easy as that. Get signed up. Shout out to DraftKings for sponsoring today's show. Of course, all odds and lines are subject to change. All right, to the back half of today's show. ESPN putting together in their latest power rankings where Philadelphia came right at 19, I want to say, right in those low teens, which is kind of about as good as they have been all season long, listed the biggest weakness for every team in their power rankings. And for the Sixers, what did ESPN list? Well, it's that interior defense and that size issue that the Sixers have that we've been talking about really all season long. Tim Bontemps of ESPN on the Sixers, biggest weakness, interior size, both with and without Joel Embiid. Let's set aside the obvious question of how regularly and effectively Joel Embiid will be able to play, even when that isn't accounted for. This is still a perimeter-oriented and a guard-heavy roster. That style has plenty of benefits for Philadelphia, but also a fair share of issues at both ends. That lack of size showed up in a significant way defensively in Sunday's loss to the Lakers when LeBron James repeatedly muscled his way inside en route to his best game of the season. I tweeted out, it was so typical that LeBron had his get-right game against Philadelphia when he had really been struggling and dealing with injury for most of the year. And I have to agree with ESPN here, apart from health, obviously, which I think is a cop-out answer. This has been a glaring issue all season long. And if the Sixers want to compete at a high level, they had to find a way to fix this. Almost every single game we're seeing, and the stats don't show, points in the paint. Sixers are about middle of the pack in terms of giving up points in the paint. But a lot of times it's guys getting inside, and look, Sixers don't have a lot of size. Teams are finishing at the rim, or the Sixers are forced to overhelp and pack the paint with smaller bodies, and then guys can drive in, kick out for wide open three. So it's an issue that can really present itself in multiple different ways, and it's been a problem not just this year, but even going back to last year too. When you think about the personnel in the roster, right? And we can kind of talk about how they can fix this, if they can even fix this, who they have on roster. Joel Embiid, in his prime, playing at his best, was an elite defender, an elite rim protector. He's not that anymore. I think he's still, good offensively, and he'll have his moments where he's missing some shots, but I think offensively he can get back close to what he was. I think defensively is where the biggest drop-off is. Now, there are times in certain games, in certain situations where he really locks in and you can see him exerting that extra effort to get a big block or make a big stop or move his feet a little bit better on defense. But for the large majority of the season and the large majority of games, Embiid just can't move all that well. Teams are attacking him in the pick and roll. Against the Lakers, they must have thrown 5 to 10 lobs to DeAndre Ayton, from Luka to Ayton on these pick and rolls, because Embiid just doesn't have the verticality, not boxing out all that well. Obviously can't really jump to grab rebounds or to defend the rim. So it's a tough ask for Embiid. I don't really see that getting any better throughout the season, given the injury concerns. And then, you look at the depth spots on this roster, and when it comes to defending the rim, Drummond, he's had a great season. Credit to him. I wanted him traded in the offseason. He's been much better than I thought he would be. But defensively, still doesn't make much of an impact. Good rebounder and can deter shots a little bit. But similar to Embiid, I don't think Drummond moves all that well, doesn't defend in space all that well. And so he's not someone right at this point in his career where you're saying is a great rim protector and a great presence in the paint either. And then Adem Bona might be your best actual rim protector and shot blocker down there, but he's just too inconsistent on that end right now and has lapses where, yes, he can make highlight plays. And there's a game early in the year. It was that Wizards game, right, where the Sixers came back in the fourth quarter, forced overtime and won, where he made some awesome plays in the fourth quarter and in overtime, defending the rim, some super athletic blocks. But it comes in these stretches, right? And it's here and there for Bona. And, he was dealing with some injuries as well this year, but just not consistent enough. Plus, he is athletic, but he is shorter, about 6'8", 6'9". So Philadelphia just doesn't really have the bodies at the big man spot, and don't even get me started on potentially Janai Broom coming in there, to defend the rim at a high level. And if you can't defend the rim at a high level, you're just not going to win games all that often in this league. Now, how can Philadelphia fix this issue? They have to either make a move for a big man, which I don't think they'll do at this point. They have Bona, they have Drummond, they have Embiid. Where I think they have to get better to supplement this is playing good defense on the perimeter, which has also been a big issue. If they can play better perimeter defense, and maybe that is trading for a Herb Jones, like we mentioned earlier, or maybe just even getting Kelly Oubre back in the lineup, you keep guys on the perimeter, stop them from getting inside, and then they don't have an opportunity to get inside and finish at the rim. So, it's tough. It's an issue that I'm not sure Philadelphia is super well equipped to fix right now, but definitely I think their most glaring issue. Something to watch out for when you're watching Sixers games. Just kind of notice how many times guys have an easy drive towards the basket, whether they're finishing there or whether they're kicking out and they're ending up with a wide open three. That'll do it for today's show. Before we hop on out of here, be sure to give me a follow over on social media. Plenty of Sixers coverage here on the channel. Plenty of Sixers coverage over on social media as well for 100% free on Instagram at 76ersnow, IG, and my personal Twitter at Jake Chipper. Give me a follow, and we'll see you next time here on the show.